if you are cooking a lot very frequently, then it makes sense to get good at it, right? Maybe not the best, but good, definitely, right? Similarly, 99% of us, 99.9% of us deal with people very constantly. So it only makes sense that we get good at it, right? So in this video, we are going to be doing exactly that. I am going to be telling you fundamental ideas from this book, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. So let's begin. Hello guys, this is Abhishek and welcome to Book Ideas, where we tell you interesting ideas from interesting books. Now, today, the book that we picked, as you already know, as I've told you before, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. This is kind of an old book, but it's a very, very good book on communication skills, on handling people. And we are going to be covering in this video fundamental principles in handling people. If you are interested to get this book, then you can click the link in the description and get your book. Principle 1. Don't criticize, condemn or complain. Now let's come to the first two parts of it, criticizing and condemning. In this book, he gives stories on why this is not a good thing to do, even though most of us criticize, condemn people. But here he also adds an input from psychologists at that time on what they thought it was. And I'm telling you, it's kind of relevant today as well. Okay, so B.F. Skinner, he was a very famous psychologist then. From his experiment, he was able to figure out that animal rewarded for good behavior learned much more rapidly and retained what it learned better than the animal that was hurt or that was punished for bad behavior. So the animal with good behavior, with reward, did a lot better in learning new things and retaining them than the animals which were punished. And later on, many psychologists added other studies and brought up many studies which showed that it is same or very similar to humans as well. When we know this, we still end up criticizing people, right? So remember this, if you could reward people for their good behavior, that is a very, very strong way to deal with people. Now with that said, one part that I disagree with this book is that sometimes punishment works. But where I agree with this book is punishment is not a long-term thing. For short-term motivation, it works. For an employee, being scared that he's going to lose his job or she's going to lose her job is a good motivation for short-term. If we keep this on for a long period of time, then they are going to feel very bad about it. They just won't like it. They probably move on to another job or they leave the job and start something of their own. That's one. The next part is good behavior. If you can reward them for their good behavior, they are more likely to stay with you in your company as an employee or whatever it is. But you get the point, right? So that's the first part of it. Now, second part of it is about condemning. Hans Selye, I hope I haven't butchered that name, but okay, he was another great psychologist, and he said this. Okay, as much as we thirst for approval, we dread condemnation. And this is where that log kya kahenge mindset comes from, right? What will people think? Now, if you really observe, okay, or let me ask you this. Do you think people care a lot about what other people think of them? Yeah. Well, if you answered yes, but not exactly. Let me explain. A lot of people care to an extent where they don't want other people to think bad of them. As long as they think good about them, that's good. If it's something that they don't like, then they're like, you know what? No, I'm scared of it. So a lot of times what we are scared of is people judging us in a way which we don't like. Right? And that is condemning. When you condemn people for some mistakes that they do or something like that. For example, if somebody failed in something, you start calling them failure, that's bad. Right? So stop condemning people. It could really hurt them. Now, second part of it is do not complain. Let me tell you this. In an interview, you know what's the worst thing that you can do in a job interview? The worst thing that you can do in a job interview, if you ask many interviewers, they'll tell you this as well. The worst thing that you can do is sit there and complain about your previous employer. And you know why? Because what they'll feel is that after you leave their company, you will go to your next employer and complain about them. Which means their impression of you is spoiled there itself. So remember, don't complain about somebody else to another person. It's just bad, right? Because that person will think that you will go to another person and you will complain about them. Now, if you meet someone who's going to complain about other people to you, then chances are they'll also complain about you to other people when it suits their needs. So do not complain. Principle 2 in dealing with people is give honest appreciation. You know, what's sweet is appreciation. What is much sweeter is honest and sincere appreciation. Now in this chapter, I'll tell you how to do it, but in this chapter, there's one amazing line. So there was this philosopher called Emerson, and his quote is there. It said that Emerson said, "Every man I meet is my superior in some way. In that I learn of him." Now I'm not telling you to treat someone as superior. Okay? The problem is when you treat someone as superior, you're going to put them on a pedestal. You want them to be perfect. As soon as they don't fit your idea of perfection, you feel, disappointed. That's why they say don't meet your heroes. So, but with that said, it doesn't mean you look down on them as well. But what you do is this. Just like Emerson said, understand that there are people out there, like everyone is good, is better at something than you. It just is. They're better at something than you. So if you could listen to them, you'll learn a thing or two. You'll get better in your life. Now that said, another part of it is this. When you find out that thing that a person is good at or even better than you, you can use that to compliment them. And that is very powerful and much more sincere. When you find someone who's good at something, use that to compliment them. But there's another way to compliment. The problem is, a lot of people throw compliments nowadays. Because you learn in all these communication skills videos and all that, compliment person, compliment this, compliment that. But listen, here's something that you could do, a technique. Okay, what you can do is be specific about it. Don't just say, hey, you're good. Say, hey, you know what, you're good. Especially the part where you're very inspired. Regardless of all your struggles, all your doubts, you still went through. That mindset is something that's really cool. See, now that is very specific. So when you're very specific, it shows the person that you cared enough, that you actually kind of knew what you're complimenting about. It don't make you seem like just another person giving an empty compliment. Principle 3, arouse in another person an eager want. In this, he says, the only way to really influence people is to get them to want to do something. Remember, not get them to do something, get them to want to do something. He said that, he talks about this parent and children thing. He said that if you don't want your kids to smoke, if you want your kids not to smoke, don't preach to them to not do it. Instead, let them know on how smoking could affect what they want to do in life. Maybe a kid wants to get into basketball team. Make your children realize on how smoking could hurt their goals, hurt them from getting into basketball team. And when you do that, instead of just preaching them, you get them to not want to do it. You build a desire for them to do what you want. Now, how do you do this eager want? First one is listen to people. Okay, instead of just telling them to do something, listen to them. They'll tell you what they want. Certain terms. Hey, you know what? This is what I want. This is what I'm looking for. there's one concept called as hierarchy of needs. Hierarchy of needs is the needs that is of high priority to us. The major need for a teenager is not same as a major need for a middle-aged person. A middle-aged person might be looking at getting some good savings, settling their family financially very stable, or something like that. That is their goal. But a teenage wants to maybe go and play the video game. Maybe wants to win at some game. Maybe wants to go out and play football or something like that. And if you can really understand what they want, what is their primary need, all of a sudden, you can tell them instructions in a way that's good for that. For example, if a kid wants to play video game, you can say, hey, you know what, study for 2 hours. You can play video game for an hour or something like that. And that will make them want to study. Or tell them how studying could help them get a console. They could buy a console and then they could play games on it. So something like that. The other way to do it is to put yourself in the other person's shoe. A lot of times we don't put ourselves in other person's place. We always think, our idea is the best idea. Ours is the greatest idea. Ours is the most important idea. Yes, your idea is important for you, but similarly, another person's idea is important to them. So take time to put yourself in their perspective. If you could live life, if you could see life from their point of view, you'll know what's important to them. What is it that they are looking for? And when you do that, you'll be able to integrate that into your communication. So doing that will also help you create an eager want in another person. With that said, guys, these were the 3 fundamental principles in dealing with people. And this is simple, but when you use it, it's super duper effective. With that said, if you felt like you learned something of value and if you want to see more ideas from this and many other books, then leave a like, hit that subscribe button, and also comment which book would you like us to pick out ideas from. Okay, let it be non-fiction books. Which books do you want us to pick ideas from? Just comment that below. And with that said, this is Abhishek signing off. Goodbye.